Welcome to America's Top Rebbetzins. May this class be for Refuah Shalema, for Tamara Bat Elka, and Haya Sarah Bat Devorah. Please click on the subscribe button to subscribe to us on the America's Top Rebbetzins YouTube page, or click follow to follow us on your podcasting app so that you are the first to know when an inspiring new episode is posted. I am honored to have on today's show Rebbetzin Chana Bilek. Rebbetzin Chana is a life coach, consultant, and public speaker with a fascinating story. She is a Korean-American Orthodox Jewish adoptee. So she was adopted, and she was born into poverty in South Korea, but she's now married to an Orthodox rabbi living in Baltimore, Maryland. Wow, what a journey. Thank you so much for being here. Please tell us more about yourself and your story.
Thank you, Vera. First of all, please just call me Chana. The Rebbetzin title is, a smaller title. I definitely have many identities. As an adoptee, I've gone through different journeys in terms of just my name. Actually, I was planning not to marry a rabbi, and God granted me that wish, but then I ended up making him a rabbi. So in our first few years of marriage, he became a rabbi, and then by default, I became a Rebbetzin.
Wow.
That's one part, but basically, right, as an adoptee, yes, I indeed, I actually in the beginning, I didn't know really what the situation in terms of like how poverty stricken I was. I just had on my information in my adoption file that probably was a poverty situation, as I was very sick when they found me, and that was what was in the information. So as an adoptee to a white American family from South Korea, as the age of 2, in my young childhood years, in my teenage years, I really had to really question what makes a relationship, right? It wasn't a given from from the beginning. So I think that has really given me an edge in terms of understanding what a relationship is and how to form those relationships and make sure they are what is going to be helpful for my identity. So I really questioned my identity, who I want to be, and that really led me on my journey and my searching. My parents are part of the story, but in a nutshell, my father, who was born Jewish, who adopted me, my mother later on converted, and we went through a Reform conversion, and then my mother went through her own Orthodox conversion, and I then later on my own made that journey. So that is how I became an Orthodox Jewish woman. And so through this whole journey, I really had to figure out what a relationship is with one's family members, siblings. I didn't have a lot of extended family at the time, but as I got married and got involved with in-laws and other bigger family members, I really had to learn learn about those things and really take in all the life lessons and the things I've learned from school, from undergrad psychology and a master's of sociology, which really questions the idea of relationships and how they shape a person's identity and how a person's identity shapes and influences one's relationships in the larger society. So this has kind of been my whole life. So this is right down my path. And so I've been using my own life experience and professional education and learning to help other people navigate those challenging and sometimes, harder relationships, and then, how we can go through that. So that has been the biggest part of my life. Now, a big update in my story is that I just found my birth family this past year.
Oh, wow.
So I'm navigating a whole new set of relationships. It's beautiful. I met my birth mother and her family, many of her family members, many of my aunts and uncles and cousins. I've met my part of my birth father's family. My birth father is actually not alive, so I did not meet him, but I met some people who were close to him at the time of my beginning of my life. And I've gone back to Korea twice within a year to meet all these people. So I am just navigating a whole journey of new relationships, a totally different culture and a language barrier on top of it. Yet I'm really, really blessed because God has given me so many things in my life to help me now have the skills to use these skills and lessons of relationship navigation for this new set of relationships that I'm now getting involved in.
That's incredible. I'm like taking in everything you're saying. It's such a journey. I mean, it really, really is. It's not one that's typical of most people. It really crosses continents, crosses language barriers, crosses religion barriers, really everything. And as you mentioned, relationships. And this is so interesting because when I first reached out to you, I didn't even think how important relationships were in your life, because we're going to be talking about relationships today. But I see like you are the perfect person for this topic. This is amazing. So today we're going to be talking about an issue that so many women face on a daily basis, and it's managing close relationships, but not the one with our husbands and children. These are different. We're going to be discussing important perspectives and strategies on managing relationships with our friends, our coworkers, our in-laws, siblings, extended family members. And these are all relationships that can bring us much joy in our lives, but they really can also add a lot of stress. So today, with your help, we're going to learn how to bring back the joy and alleviate the challenges that can sometimes occur when people interact with each other. So let's start at the beginning. Can you please talk to us about how we can manage relationships with our friends, in-laws, colleagues, on top of our existing household relationships with our husband or kids? Like, how do we manage all that external along with the internal?
Right. So that's a very good question, because as we have to create our home life and so much energy goes into making the marriage work, making our parenting work, it can feel a lot of times for a lot of women that they don't have that extra energy to go out and work on those extended relationships, whether it's in-laws, and we also have those obligations we feel with in-laws, and that pull to fulfill our obligation and at the same time find a way to enjoy it, especially in a society today where with, the Hallmark market and movies and TV shows, everything out there everybody's so happy all the time, that everybody's always joyful. I'd use the word joyful, and that feeling that we so want to have, that is put out there, the expectation is you can have it all, right? That's the world we live in. We can have a beautiful, perfect home, that's, magazine worthy, picture worthy, and have a hot dinner, from the commercials, everybody's happy, everybody's fed, and you can have time to go party with your friends. And you'll still wake up refreshed the next morning, to do it all again. And that, I think this is a big part that we have to be realistic about what we are managing. And I think that this is a big part, is when we have to be realistic about what we need to manage. And there's only 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week for everybody, men and women, rich and poor. And I think that's one place to start, that our expectation and reality need to be closer together, where we may be in a space of disappointment that we can't have everything, right? That is disappointing. And if we can get it closer here rather than here, when we look at all these expectations and we pull it apart, there's more space for that joy to fall down into despair and exhaustion, right? And so that's one thing, is time management is one thing, being realistic, right, is one thing. And that's one piece of the puzzle. The other thing in terms of managing is to understand, what am I feeling in each relationship that I have, and what do I want to get? And you mentioned again that word, I want to feel joyful. A woman wants to feel joyful in her work, in her relationships. And if we know what our goal is, and at the same time we're aware of what we're feeling when we're interacting with somebody, some of those relationships don't feel joyful, which is going to sometimes feel that we're not, again, expectation. It may not always feel joyful to go to your mother-in-law's house when you'd rather be working on a home project, right? It may not be joyful to hang out with that sister-in-law for her birthday, then you'd rather be going to your friend's birthday, right? You have to, there's decisions, and we have to understand that sometimes we're going to choose a different goal of what we want to foster of that relationship with that in-law, because maybe in the first few years that's important, because you want to build that connection with family, right? And that may not feel as joyful. And at the same time, if we know that there's a goal we're trying to get to in working towards that relationship, we can say, oh, I'm maybe feeling happy that I'm creating this family dynamic, and that's where I'm putting my energy now. That's more realistic. And at the same time, maybe I'm not gonna do this every year. Then in a couple of years, I'm gonna rather say, no, this year I'm gonna decline your birthday, because my best friend's birthday is actually the same day your birthday is, and I'm gonna go now to her, right? And you have to be more realistic about what you're working towards, and that can bring back some sense of enjoyment, or at least sense of happiness. I'm working towards those goals, right? And we have to work towards that, be aware of it at the same time.
That's beautiful. And it's so practical. It really is, to determine like what kind of goal that you want with a certain relationship. And that's so interesting. I've never actually heard that before, like setting goals with relationships in terms of what you want from your interaction, your relationship with that person. And it doesn't have to be a forever thing. Just because you're doing something, you're interacting with a person one way now, doesn't mean 5-10 years from now, it's going to be the same thing. It could evolve. It could change once you've built that foundation for the relationship. I love that. And in terms of being realistic, you're right. The hallmark, everybody's happy, everybody's joyful. Nobody's complaining about dinner. Like everybody wants to go to the same place and do the same thing. It's wow, That's not, it's not reality. So I love that what you said about time management and being realistic. We, as women, we only have 24 hours in a day, and we have to be realistic about what we can accomplish in that. We have our household relationships with our husband and our kids, and then we have to see how much we can devote to those relationships outside the home. I think it's very practical and very doable. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
And so, like, as you were mentioning, friendships play a key role in our lives. Like, there are plenty of times when we feel closer to one of our friends or even to our siblings, aunts, or cousins than we do to our husband. Whenever we're close with somebody, we are particularly impacted by their words or their actions. And what people say and do can cause deep emotional wounds and hurt us tremendously. And really, even sometimes breaking up with a friend is more painful than getting a divorce. So I want to ask you, how can we handle a situation where we have somebody who's really close to us, like a friend or a mother-in-law or a sister who hurts us? How do we handle a hurt in that type of a relationship?
Wow. Yeah. So thank you for asking that question, because this is something that is the harder side to talk about when it comes to relationships, and it can happen to anybody. And I definitely had, those situations as well. Yeah. So again, like, I think again that we have to be aware again of what's going on when we're in a relationship with somebody, right? And to have again a realization that we can't control another person and what they're going to do, and to control my feeling, right? So if something is feeling unenjoyable or hurtful, and then all those other feelings that are in between, right? Those other feelings of, maybe you feel anxious around somebody, or you're feeling nervous, or you're feeling worried. Again, what are those feelings you're feeling? If you become more aware of those feelings, then you're able to understand, wait, then you can ask yourself the next question, right? And then gain understanding by asking the question, if I'm feeling this feeling, worried, hurt, etc., what's making me feel that way? Right? Is it that a certain thing they're saying to me? Is it a certain joke they're making? Is it, that I'm making plans for them, and and many times that I've tried to make plans, they stand me up or they cancel last minute? What are the things that are making me feel those feelings? And then if I can have the ability to understand what I'm going through and respect, first of all, is respecting in yourself what you're feeling. And a lot of times, again, as women, I think we are unrealistic about respecting our feelings. Again, we think everybody's always happy. I should be happy. Why am I unhappy? If I can just get them to do this, then maybe I'm just picking the wrong time of day, and I need to try a different time of day, right? Or maybe she doesn't like maybe text messaging doesn't work. I need to call her, right? We go into this like what maybe and what if, and that anxiety and stress we don't really notice those other feelings are really going on. And when we can respect those feelings and not push them away right away, like, okay, here's what I'm feeling, they say, okay, no, now let me see if I can address that with the person, right? So if there's a phrase, and it depends on the relationship and how, again, every relationship is different. So like with a new mother-in-law, you may not say, excuse me, I don't really like it when you call my tickle a schmata. Maybe for you that is like just your terminology, but for me it actually it makes me feel uncomfortable, right? And not and I really would prefer if you just call it a tickle, right? And oftentimes if you can say to a person, again, depends on the relationship, a new mother-in-law, you may not want to say that right away, but after a few years, maybe you'll have the confidence to say, hey, I really know that you like me better in a sheitel, and you really like that. I really appreciate when I do wear a tickle that, just don't say anything, or don't say that it's a shmata, right? Again, that everybody can have different ways of kind of bringing that in at a different point in time. Again, it's not, you don't have to say this forever, I'm going to be in this uncomfortable or negative experience. What can I do though to influence that change, right? And if I can speak up, and then I see, we don't know what the reaction is going to be from that mother-in-law or from that friend, right? But all I can do is try. Usually most people care about how other people are feeling, right? This is what I think, even a mother-in-law who seems very judgmental, or we feel judged by the mother-in-law constantly, or from that sister who, is, has her opinion about me and how I do things now, or that friend who, we went to base soccer together, and now we've gone different paths, and when we get back together, again, and a lot of times it's that feeling of judgment I think a lot of us get from those relationships. And again, being just like, what can I do to check in? Is it that they are really judging me, and that I am, and then they're going to say another thing back that's judgmental and negative? Or would they perhaps say, oh, actually, I didn't know that was so upsetting for you. I really didn't mean that. That's how I refer to it. I'll stop. or just remind me if I do it again. And again, the work we can do, and then there's an opportunity, right, to see where we'll go. So again, it's two parts. On one hand, it depends on the relationship. Not every relationship right away we're going to feel comfortable saying, hey, I'm upset by that, or that is hurtful for me, or I'm worried about this, right? Then other relationships, if we can get to a point, and I think it really has to do with the personal work. And this is as a personal development coach, this is the work to do to help a person first and foremost respect their own feeling. That if I'm feeling worried or I'm feeling upset about something, and then do the work, what is making them feel that way? And now that I understand that, now can I have the confidence to speak up to the other person and ask them to respect my feeling and tell them, hey, I'd like to have a conversation about this because I would like to keep this relationship, and I would like to try to make this work. Here's something that could help make it work better.
I love that. I love what you said about respecting your own feelings. I think sometimes as women, we forget to respect our own feelings, or maybe we just don't think our feelings are important. Everybody else's feelings are more important than ours, and we just kind of shove ourselves under the rug down there. And that breeds resentment. That's like prime breeding grounds for resentment, because why is everybody else getting their needs met, getting, their feelings acknowledged, and me, I'm like chopped liver, So I think it really is very, very important to respect your feelings. And I like that. I like what you said, because it makes so much sense. Once we respect our feelings and we're comfortable with our feelings, we're able to express them in a respectful way to other people, and they're able to hear it from a place not of anger or of judgment, but from like a genuine place of I'm hurt by what you did or what you said or something like that, in a respectful way, as opposed to coming at them like gangbusters and all angry because we're suppressing our own feelings and feeling just that resentment.
Right, exactly it. And I think that's what it is. Like, one of my favorite quotes growing up when you talk about the friendships, right? That friendships are just a key role in our lives. Like as an adoptee, again, like I kind of look at the world like, okay, anybody could have been my parents. Anybody could have been my siblings. Anybody can be my friend. And there's a famous quote I heard that there are no strangers in the world, only friends you've never met. And that quote, when I heard it, I can't remember, I think I was like a tween, before, but I took that in. I was like, that's it. Like, that's what it is. That's what the world is open, right? At the same time, we have to teach our children to be careful around strangers and not everybody's a friend to the point we can just walk into their home or go into their car. But again, the idea is that the potential is there, the potential to care for each other and create a connection. And that's really what all this is about, right? All this topic about relationships is that we are made for connection. Humans are made to connect with each other, and all those relationships, from the one with oneself, with one's intimate partner, husband, children, in-laws, family, all the different family members, cousins, siblings, friendships, they all are a potential for connection. And from that potential comes our potential to get to know ourselves more, and in that process get to understand God more. Because again, we can understand my feelings, what work I need to do to get there. And through that work, we're doing really chesed for ourselves and for the other people as we're having those conversations.
Right. It's so funny. I connect so much with this quote. Like, what was it? Strangers are just friends waiting to happen.
Right. There's no strangers in the world. There's only friends you've never met, meaning the potential is really there no matter who the person is, right? And that we have the opportunity, each individual has the opportunity to create that friendship with a person, to meet a person on the common ground, to able to share. And what is a friendship? What is a relationship? It's not just two people living in the same house, right? There's many people we know who grew up in homes where it's more like a dormitory, or marriages that have become more like your roommates, right? And those are that you're under the same physical roof, but yet you're not connecting. What is the connections that happen? You're not sharing your feelings. You're not saying, hey, I feel this way, I feel that way, and what can we do to make the positive feeling more happen in this environment? Right? That's really what the goal is. And that's why God gave us feelings, not to suppress them and not to try to, not to push them away, is to make us aware so we can have more insight, more das into what I need to do. What do I want to change here? And how do I get to the top, right? So respect is on the bottom. How do I, then having that trusting conversation, on the top is love. How do I get to the love for myself and for the other person? And that's chesed, right? The chesed is love, when we can do it in the right way and we can go through that process.
Right, that's true. Love is the ultimate expression of Hesed. That really, really makes sense. I love that. And I just want to take this question just one step further. As I was saying when I was asking it the question in the first place, I was saying about like sometimes breaking up with a friend is more painful than getting a divorce. I want to talk about that just for a little while. I don't. Do you understand like what I'm saying? Like if sometimes you have like a really close friendship, like a best friend or something like that, and you're friends for 10, 15, 20 years, and then something happens, something like what it could be anything. And then that person is just not in your life anymore. And like you feel such a profound loss. And maybe you were married and you were never close to your husband in the first place, and then you get a divorce. And yeah, of course it's a loss. And yes, you feel it, but you felt that loss of a friendship so much more. And I'm wondering, like, for people who are going or have gone through that situation, how do you handle that?
Right. So going specifically in terms of really, really close friendship, right?
Yeah.
Again, that worked on creating that moving past from being a stranger to a friendship, and you've put that effort in, and you've had those years of conversation, and you've been there for each other, and and it can and you really feel this really like your soul sister, is a term people use, this really deep connection with a person that
Yes.
that they're part of, in a sense, a part of you, right? When you say it's you are my friend, right? That word, it's a connection, right?
Right.
That we're best friends. Why best friends so important to young children? Because they want the sense of like, I'm not alone, right?
Yes.
It's a big world out there, and even getting married is part of that big world, right? Like if I knew you before I got married, and now I got married, you were part of that world before, and you're still part of my world after, and I'm okay. It gives me a sense of groundness, right? And it's really right. It's a really powerful thing to have a best friend, and if one faces a place where either they just kind of diverge, even that can be a sadness, right? It's a loss. Or
Yes.
if the argument, if something would cause that, something with a jealous situation, or it's just something like a fight over, usually a fight about something came up, and it would, maybe a hashkafik, or
A difference
anything,
of opinion, maybe. Yes.
opinion, I've seen this a lot this year. Actually, we saw the past few years, the political dynamic has really heated up people's discussions about, and if people are not the same political spectrum, they have broken up friendships, right? So
Yes.
again, it's a really hard thing. And so what is it's really a loss. It's really, at the end of the day, when you lose any relationship, and especially a close friendship, it
Yeah.
is a loss.
Yes.
So in a sense, it's kind of going through a mourning period, right? And like understanding, first of all, that you are going to be flooded with different emotions. There'll be days when you're going to be in shock, and then you're going to be angry, and you're going to feel shock, you're going to feel anger, you're going to feel despair and sadness, and you may even cry over the friendship. And that's, again, I think, going back to respecting those feelings of that process is important, to accept and respect that that's part of being human, is that we have the awareness of our emotions, and then those feelings come from our thought process. What am I thinking? Oh, she could have done this. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, could have, would have, should have. If I stay there, I'm going to usually stay longer in a place of anxiety and despair, which is okay to be there. It's okay to be there. You don't have to get out of it super fast. You don't have to shun yourself for that, right? But again, to not feel ashamed of it, and not to feel guilty of it, to accept that that's part of the process, and that we have to decide what was the situation. Again, if it's a friendship that is not going to be helping us get to our goal, right? Let's go back to the goal of becoming more connected to our higher self, and to shalom, right? Shalom bias, which extends beyond the home, like connection to the community, and in terms of friendships, and really ultimately connecting to Hashem, right? If it's not, then maybe in the end of the day, we have to say it's hard to swallow, right? It's really gam zelatova, right? If this person was actually deterring me from those things, it wasn't helping me, then maybe it's hard to accept, and I can look back and be happy for the fun times I had, and the good memories, and the things I learned from that person, right? At the same time, that now their footprint is on my heart, but it's not going to be walking together anymore. And to really, on one hand, commemorate the friendship, on the other hand, accept the loss and move on, right? And actually, I was listening to Rebbetzin Heller yesterday, and she gave an online class, and she talked about the idea that really, that what we want to do over this tomorrow, the day of mourning, at Service, is to understand that we're commemorating the losses of what we've come from, the pain of the Jewish people, but we don't get into despair. And then we say, well, I want to work and build forward. What can I learn from that? What can I move forward and do for the next relationship, right? In terms of myself, right? And how can I learn from that?
I
I
love that. Yeah.
have that. Like, I've had, definitely friendships in my life where I've had also to like say, okay, that's not going to serve me well anymore. And now I'm going to take what I've learned from that and build forward. And at the same time, accept that there will be a time period of sadness. And sometimes even years will go by and you'll think back to that friendship and the loss of it. And accept in that moment that you remember you're having a moment of remembering that the sadness of that loss and commemorating that friendship.
I love that. It's so very well said, because it's so true. Like, and it all comes back to respecting our own feelings, and even our own feelings in the grief of losing that friendship. Like you said, it's a loss, and we have to give ourselves the time and the space to grieve our feelings and accept them and feel our feelings. It's really, wow. So here's an interesting question. So Hashem, God created women to be nurturers and caretakers. We cook for our friends and family. We take on an extra project at work. We agree to go out of town to visit our in-laws for the holidays, even if it's not convenient for us. And we do so much for so many people. And all this doing for others is really, it's wonderful and it's helpful, but can lead to burnout. And sometimes we just need to say no so that we can focus on taking care of other things, or even focus on taking care of ourselves so that we don't burn out. My question is, how do we say no when we really need to say no? But how can we do it in a way that we're still staying true to God and to fulfilling our role of taking care of others?
Right. Really good question. So I think this comes back. It's like we keep talking about respecting ourselves, right? That self-respect, in another way people are saying it today, is self-love is not selfish, right? Self-respect, self-love, self-care is not selfish, right? That we need to not feel guilty and ashamed that I need to say no to my 10-year-old when she wants me to hang out with at 10 o'clock at night, that I need to take some time now to get myself ready for bed. And that, please, I'm asking you to, I'm going to show you that I want respect, and I'm going to respect myself by saying no, right? And saying not now. I say, I like to hang out. I like to spend more time with you. Yes, it is disappointing, right? The space of disappointment will exist. I'm feeling disappointed that I don't have more time to spend with you now, 10 o'clock at night. If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it a different time, right? And again, it comes back to that respect. Another piece is that when I run an anger management workshop. I've been giving for a few years now. And so this comes up towards the last session of the workshop, the idea of saying no, right? Because when we don't say no, it breeds resentment and we end up getting angry, right? Because expectation reality is not here, it's here. And then that well of anger exists. And this kind of expectation reality idea it really comes from Rabbi Noah Orlowek. So he talks about this idea also in parenting and relationships, right? So again, that we can't, if we keep moving it back, here's reality. And I keep expecting, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll find time. Yeah, I should be able to do it. I'll try. I should, right? Why can't I? Then that well of negative emotions gets bigger and bigger. Right. And we can't handle it. We can't hold it. Right. But if we're here, that feeling disappointed that there's not enough time, feeling disappointed that I don't have enough energy, that it's okay. That there'll often time, and this is really realizing reality, that there's often times we're disappointed. Right. That is actually okay that we're feeling disappointed, that there's not enough time to do everything. And that's okay. We're not supposed to, there's this, I forgot the exact quote, but that it's not our job to finish everything in the world, but we have to try our best, right? We're not, every Jew is not responsible to bring Mashiach, but we have to try our best, yes. Right? That we have to do our part. So we have to take that idea into our everyday life, that in 24 hours, not responsible to do everything for everybody all the time. Right. Part of doing best is for you too. It's saying I also, because you have to fill yourself first. If you're not doing chesed for yourself first, you can't go out and do it for other people. And that includes your family members and your extended family, right? And you have to check in with yourself. What am I feeling right now? Again, it goes back to feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling stressed out. I'm feeling anxious. Oh my gosh. It's okay. I'm feeling these things. Okay, now I hear myself say I'm feeling overwhelmed. Now I see myself getting anxious. Let me take a minute. What am I feeling overwhelmed about? What am I feeling anxious about? Oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed to take on giving my two friends who just had babies. I really would like to make a meal, and I should make the meal because they're my friend. And I got the meal train thing, and it keeps popping up a reminder. I should do it. No, oh no, there's too many days are running out, right? And it made me say, wait, you know what? I can make them a meal in a month. I don't have to make them a meal this week just because that's what the meal train says, yes. Right? And it keeps popping on my phone. That's okay. And then the people say, excuse me, I know you're asking for my help. I'm gonna have to really, it's just better I say no, right? That today I'm not able to help with that. Okay, and again, we have to be able to say no with clearly, first of all, being clear, what is the expectation made of us? If we can clarify the other person, sometimes we're not hearing the expectation clearly, right? We hear somebody wants help with something, like, okay, can you help me make shever brachas? Well, that's a very general term, make shever brachas. Excuse me, can you tell me what you're expecting help with from me? Oh, could you do all the shopping for all the food for the shever brachas? Oh, okay, now I understand. You want me to do shopping for the shever brachas, the shopping part of creating that. Actually, I can't do all the shopping for the shever brachas. That won't work out for me. Now that I'm understanding you clearly, that's your expectation. I'm not able to do that because the day of the shever brachas, or the day before, which is maybe the day to do the shopping, I already have plans, right? And actually, not to say I'm sorry I can't, right? To say I'm sorry, it weakens your no. To say I can't do that. I have already had plans. What I can do now, maybe it's not a complete no, but what it could be is like, what I'd be happy to do is I could deliver the drinks a week before, because that's something that's not going to go bad. The pressure's not there. I can organize the drinks part of it. Would that be helpful? Right, and that's we can really think through, if we think about what we're feeling, what is making me feel overwhelmed, what is it I can or cannot do, and then offer a question. Sometimes that can be, no, I won't do that. What do you need help with? I can do this, right? Or sometimes maybe we'll complete no, like, no, I'm not able to, right? And understanding that's what you need to have happen. Because again, what I say is, as women, our desk, our work desk, is not just our desk where we sit. It's the kitchen, it's the house, it's the doctor appointments. We don't know what's going to come up day in, day out, week out. So we may have plans to make dinner for a friend that week who had a baby, right? Who's a good friend, and you really want to show your love and support by providing a meal for their family. But then you have 2 kids who need to go to the doctor that day that you're planning to make the meal.
Right. Right. And I love that because, self-care is not selfish. When you respect yourself, other people respect you, and then they don't take advantage of you and they don't step on you. And I also like what you said about offering something else. Okay, so you can't do exactly what the person wanted you to do, but after you take pause and you think, okay, well, I can't do that. Is there something else I can do? Is there something I can offer? And sometimes it's going to be flat out, no, I can't at all because of whatever's going on in your life. Or sometimes there's going to be, I can't do exactly what you asked me to, but can I do this? And then you can offer that. And then it's up to them. Do they accept your offer, or they say, no, I really need this, and that's it? And then, of course, you're nice and polite about it, but you don't let yourself get stepped on, and you don't let yourself get burned out and stressed out over something that it is really not in your realm to do anyway. You can say no, and it's okay.
Right. And I think this really comes back to bitachon and emunah. Right, we're not responsible for everything that happens around us. That Hashem is really running the show.
Right.
Right. So as we really work on our bitachon and emunah in this regard, then we can understand that if I say no, God will take care of it.
Right. That we're not the ones running the world. If I say no, the whole world is not going to stop. Somebody else will step in, or something else will happen, and it'll get done. It's great.
Right. So again, we have to really, as Jewish women, really understand that when I'm saying no, and if I'm feeling sad and disappointed, I'm saying no, that's okay. Like, again, that I'm disappointed. Yes. And I see that you're feeling disappointed. To say, I'm sorry, you're disappointed that I can't help you. That's okay. I'm sorry that you're feeling disappointed. I'm sorry that you're feeling sad that I can't spend more time with you, or I can't help you with that project. Right, that's okay to say, and even ask them, hey, now that I said no, how are you feeling? Now, one friend said, like, oh, I'm fine. I've got 3 other people to ask. Another person went, oh my gosh, I was begging you because the last time you made a shever brachas, it was perfect. And you're the best person for this. I really need your. Oh, wow, you're really feeling disappointed because your expectation is really great. Yes. And I'm saying, no, I'm so sorry you're feeling disappointed that I can't meet your expectation this time. Right.
It's so interesting, though, the point of view of meeting somebody else's expectation, because you don't know exactly what expectation they have of you. Like you said, maybe they have other people. You say no, okay, not a big deal. But maybe like they were just counting on you and you said no, and they were like really deeply disappointed, but it's still okay. It's not, oh, just because you're really deeply disappointed, I turn into a schmutz and I do what you want me to.
Right. So then you can say, wait, let's be here together for a minute. I'm also feeling disappointed. I don't have time this time. Yeah. At the same time, I respect myself and I respect you. And you can say, and also in those cases, hey, do you want me to help you figure out a plan B? I can spend 10 minutes on the phone while I'm cooking a kugel, like to talk it out. Right. Again, when you're able to respect your feelings more, you can become more of an out of the box thinker. That's not only me and you trying to solve this problem, that there's often many other ways to work together to solve a problem and get beyond that disappointment. Right. It may not be perfect, but oftentimes, again, when you respect your own feelings, and you also respect your friends' feelings, say, hey, how are you feeling? That what's going? I see this look in your face. What's going on with you? What are you feeling right now? Right, and say, oh yeah, I see that you're feeling that way, and it makes sense, and I'm really sorry that you're feeling that way. And at the same time, I'm sorry that that I'm feeling this way also, and still, I'm not sorry about my no. That my no is actually something that I'm doing for myself. It's respecting. I trust my no, and I give myself that self-love from that clear, respectful no.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. And I just want to ask you one last question, because we are all inspired by true stories, true success stories. So if we know of someone who faced the same challenges as we did and they overcame it, it can give us hope that we can do it too. So I want to ask you if you can please share a story or two, either about yourself from your own life or about someone you know who has faced challenges with people close to them other than their husbands and children, and who was able to successfully manage that relationship, and how did they do it?
Right. Okay. So I do have clients that have helped navigate these dynamics. So one particular story that comes to mind is a client who actually is navigating her relationship with her adoptive mother. So I'm working with an adoptee for a few months, maybe over a year now. And she came in because she was really having a hard time connecting with her mother. And she wasn't sure if it was because of her adoption stuff and her, of that, or if it was just something that's between her and her mom. And so the first thing is that I helped her understand that, realistically, like, not everybody is close to their mother in their adult years, right? That in her view, she's like, with this, that she thought she should be able to be close to her mom, right? And right. Actually, in fact, her mother and her were on a different difference of opinion about the political situation over the past few years. And so she was working in the government. So her work is government oriented and is very directly affected by the policies that are made. Yes. From the president down to her job, right? And so she's gone through the years with the different presidencies, she was experiencing really stressful situations. And she would call her mother, and her mom would ask about her work, and she would explain, and her mom would invalidate her or say something that was, unhelpful. And she just felt like she was getting more and more distant from her mother. So it really scared her, especially as somebody who, I think for anybody, it's a painful experience, a scary experience to become distant from one's mother. At the same time, for an adoptee, I think there's that extra layer of like, whoa, like, what does this mean? I'm this kind of a fear of abandonment or separation. It can be a little bit more intense. So really, one thing I first did was help her become more realistic about, like, this, not everybody has a close relationship with their mother, whether adopted or biological. So that was the first thing, is becoming more realistic, right? That's what we talked about as well in the beginning of this. The second thing was to really understand, what does she want? What is her goal with maintaining her connection with her mother? Right? That's also is to clarify. She wanted to continue to see her mother. She wanted to go visit her mother, and ideally she'd like her mother come up to visit her, but her mother wasn't the type of person to go outside of her comfort zone and do that. So again, as we clarified, what was her goal? Like, what is she looking for in terms of that relationship? Is that she wanted the family connection. That for her to have that connection created family for her, a sense of family. And so as we clarified, what does that mean, and how can she do that given the circumstances in this unique relationship? She was able to come to a better understanding of her feelings and her work through them, and then find common ground where she could connect with her mother.
Wow. And that's a process. Like, I mean, it took time. Like, you definitely had to work through that.
Many months of work. Yes.
Wow. And I love that. And it's because you set a goal with her. Like, what do you want out of this relationship, and how can you go about to achieve it? I really, really like that, because that gives you clarity and direction. Because if you want something, I know a lot of people saying, I want, but they don't know what they want. So if you don't know what you want, you can't get it. And it really is the same thing. I love how you explain how it really is the same thing in a relationship. If you have a relationship with somebody, this time it was with her mother, it could be with any relationship, an in-law, a colleague, a friend, when you know what you want out of a relationship, it's you're more apt to be able to get there, because you know the directions, that the steps that you have to take to get there, and you kind of know where you're going with it. So this is very, very cool that you helped her work out her relationship with her mother by setting a goal.
Right. And so that was really helped her and give her that context to work towards it. And she's been able to take some skills. Right. It's been a process, learning the skills, becoming more aware of what's going on with herself, and be aware when her mother's, what is her expectation from her mother, right? Lowering the expectation down and being more realistic. In terms of coworkers, so I actually recently was hired to go out to a business here in Baltimore, and I saw the gentleman who brought me in was, I think he's the boss of the business. I'm not sure what his exact title is, but he brought me in to work with two of the staff members who had gotten into a argument on the work floor. And so I saw them both individually and gave them the anger management workshop, which is what he wanted them to do. So he can say, I've done my best to keep you guys here. And once you get this workshop, then if you mess up again, he's okay to say he's done his best and he doesn't have to feel, obligated to keep them on. But, again, I didn't see them together. So that's, first of all, I saw them separately is what the setup was. As I was working with them and we talked about the dynamics in the workplace, which would come up during the sessions, right, is again, that they were able to understand within themselves, respecting what their feelings, right, becoming more aware of what they were feeling at a time if something was to happen that was similar to what happened that caused them to end up landing in my workshop, and to work on feeling vocabulary, really helping them understand that their feelings are important. You respect them, and the more you can respect your own feelings. These are older gentlemen, both from different cultures, right? So, one was a African-American Black guy, American, and he was an older gentleman in his 60s, and the other guy was a guy from, I believe, Nigeria, and he was, African. So very, both dark skinned men, but very different cultures. And as they were learning these concepts, it's fascinating. I've worked with many different people from different cultures, by the way. It's fascinating, the people I've met over the course of my work. These two gentlemen, at the same time, they were able to receive it. Like when everybody, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background is, that when you understand that your feelings are universal, that when you feel upset or bothered by something, that's okay. And to say, hey, wait, I'm feeling that way. What's making me feel that way? I'm feeling bothered that you're stepping into my space. And then to learn to speak up in a respectful way. Excuse me, would you please move out of my space because I'm feeling bothered by it, right? And to come with a way to do that and to work, and then you can have that trusting conversation. First you do it with yourself, then you do it with the other person.
Yes.
And you say, would you please help me out? Right. And then one of the gentlemen, he was pushed back a lot on this. Like, nobody talks about feelings out there, and how's it going to work? It doesn't really, I got my only idea with the body, in a way I look at them, and the only thing I stand if I make a certain body move, or, if I just walk away and say, okay, like, I think part of body language is important. At the same time, our words, when we're able to verbalize it, when we sit down heart to heart and say, this, I think, is also, I forgot the Hebrew phrase for this, but what words from the heart enter the heart, right? Then when we say that, this is how I'm feeling, and because I know you're a human, you care about other people, and you in turn care about me, or at least care about your job enough to care about me, then we can have this basic conversation. Hey, I'm feeling bothered by this. Hey, that really kind of threw me off. I'm feeling thrown off by this. But you don't have to use those bigger words. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling shaken up. I'm feeling depressed. Like, there's a really big vulnerable words, but some of the other words, like I'm feeling disturbed, bothered, okay, those words you can, and we'll get the message across, and you can start talking about it, right? And then you can hey, what are you feeling? Ask the other guy if he has a look in his face. Hey, what are you feeling right now when I tell you that, or I did this, or this happened? What's going on with you? Right. And as you're able to communicate those, then you can say, hey, what can we do so we're not feeling bothered by this situation? Who can we talk to if this is not happening? And sometimes the other person won't be receptive. Not every coworker is going to be like, oh man, I'm sorry you're bothered by this. They may just, call you wussy and put their hand up at you and do whatever they're going to do. But then that's when you're excuse me, please stop. I'm asking you to stop. I'm saying no, don't do that. And then you have to figure out what your consequence is going to be in a situation, which maybe, you have to plan ahead. If you're going to not stop, then I'm going to go report this to so-and-so. I'm going to write a letter of complaint, right? And you make it very clear what the consequences, and then you follow through on it. So again, there's obviously a lot with every relationship. There's different dynamics and different situations. We are not be able to control the other person. We can only offer information and ask for information. That is our level of hishtaglut, of affecting change.
I love that. So we can only offer information, and we can ask for information. We can't control whether or not the other person gives us information or what the other person does. That's out of our hands. Amazing. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Hannah, for joining us on America's Top Rebbetzins. It was truly a pleasure to have you with us. I know I learned a lot, and I know everybody else will learn a lot too by listening to you. And may the tremendous learning we did today be for Refuah Shalema for Tamara Bat Elka and also for Haya Bat Devorah. Thank you again so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Vera, for having me. May you continue to be successful in your work and
Amazing.
giving more messages to the Jewish world to make this world a little bit brighter.
Thank you. Thank you so much.